Welcome back to another episode of The Creative Real Estate Agent. I'm your host, Anastasia Forrest, broker associate with eXp Realty and creative person. And today I have a wonderful guest, inspiring guest. I'm going to call her a super creative. Her name's Meg Nordmann. And she's absolutely amazing. You guys are going to hear all about it. But she lives in St. Augustine like myself. And Megan, Megan. Sometimes I see your name as Megan.
It's fine.
Meg and her husband set a goal to retire before the age of 40. And what's really impressive is they recently achieved that goal by relying on the practices of minimalism and frugality, as well as by bringing in passive income through several means. But one of those main means is real estate investments. And Meg also happens to be incredibly creative. And both she and her husband bring a really unique touch to their vacation rentals. I've seen the photos on Facebook, and I mean, they even build furniture for their places. So I'm really excited to chat with Meg more about that and about her creative interests as well. So welcome to the show, Meg.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be talking about this with you. I love the mixture of real estate and creativity.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for understanding. It's cool that you vibe with it. And it seems there's a compliment there, and it seems like you guys are tapping into that. So it's perfect to have this conversation today. Yeah, so you sent me a biography of yourself because I don't want to leave this other things out because the show is about creativity. And I mean, oh my goodness, like you've done so much. It's so impressive. And not only that, but I looked into I looked at LinkedIn. I even found you on Medium. I read a couple of your articles on Medium. I'm like, oh my God, this girl is everywhere. Like, and you have a large following. And so it's very impressive, but I guess let's start by talking about what do you mean by retired? Because you're doing so much. So what does it mean to be retired?
Yeah, so I love to talk about the FIRE movement, and FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And most people in the FIRE movement, the focus is really on the FI, and it's achieving financial independence. And what that means is the moment your investments, whether that is real estate or stocks, index funds, any type of investment, once the passive income generated from that matches and funds your lifestyle, you are financially independent. So you don't have to rely on a paycheck from a boss, from another job, a 9-to-5 or anything like that. And my husband really wanted to hit that by age 42, and then he changed it to age 40. And then we achieved it just this past April at age 38 for him, 34 for me. It's definitely a joint task to make this happen, even though the last 5 years or so, I've been the stay-at-home mom, managing the real estate and doing other side hustles. So still bringing income, but he was really, the way society looks at it, he was the sole income provider. And we were able to achieve this in 6 years. Once we, set our minds to it, it was a 6-year journey on a single income, blue collar job. He was an auto mechanic, but his passions are making music, and he had a strong interest, I would say a passion, but he didn't have the time to really hone in on it, in woodworking. And now that he's been retired for a whole 2 months, that he has just thrown himself into that. It's been so fun to see what you do when you no longer have to go to the 9-to-5. And but yeah, so now we're retired early, but you might classify that more like semi-retirement, because I still clean and manage our rentals. So that is work, and it's a lot of work. So it's more semi-retirement. Some people call that barista fire, which is just another, fire movement term for your investments or funding everything but you're working just enough, like a barista type job, just enough to handle your small life expenses while your investments are still compounding and fueling the accounts for retirement. Whoops, sorry. If anyone's watching this, I have a nursing baby in my lap that's trying to kick the table.
Okay. Yeah, you are truly a woman of with a lot going on, many talents, and also just a lot of the ability to do multiple things at once, which is tough. So that's wonderful. How old are your kids?
2.5 and 4.5.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Busy age, and they're both at home.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I have mad respect for you.
Just juggling all the things.
That's a challenge. It's amazing. But it's really cool. It doesn't you don't let it stop you from doing things like a podcast, or and not in a bad way, like not like childcare is a bad thing, but it's nice that you're able to bring it all together. And for your girls to see you doing that, I think is wonderful, because they're seeing, what a full life can look like. I think
I think so too. I know in early motherhood, when I was a brand new parent with just the one child, and that took all of my energy and focus, because you don't know what you're doing, or I didn't. Yeah. And I had a big identity crisis at that point, because I went from this really fast propelled career, and I was having success the way society sees success, and I'm getting notoriety and a following and all this, and a lot of my identity was wrapped up in that, in climbing that ladder. And then but I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom also, and so when I did that, that was just such a huge change for me, that I had I struggled with figuring out my identity, and I had a depressive baby blues, probably hormone fueled period. And then once I kind of was able to get out of that fog, and I had that same realization of, but I've always wanted to write a book. I've always wanted to publish a book, or do this, do that. I want to be blogging. I want to be podcasting, and figured out how to incorporate that into motherhood, and wanted them to see that I didn't have to be just a mother, and not that being just a mother is a bad thing, but I wanted to be able to do all of the creative passions and interests I had, and I wanted them to be able to see that too.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I mean, motherhood and parenting is a form of creativity in and of itself. So being able to bring also your other forms of creativity in, so you don't lose that or leave it behind. I totally get it. So we'll get back to the rentals, but before we do, I want to talk a little bit more about how you got into minimalism. I mean, I know your book you published, Have Yourself a Minimalist Christmas. And I just want to hear a little bit more about what drew you to that philosophy and that way of life.
Yeah. I'll rewind just a tad, and I won't get too into depth, because I know we don't have all day long to chat, but a very brief overview. Me graduating college, and I was not deeply, but I was in, and I didn't understand compound interest at all. It can go a good way and it can go a bad way. And I was, paying the minimum on things, and it was burying me. And I didn't even realize that. I just had minimum payments on autopilot for a long time. And so there was that aspect. And I also had sorry for the child.
No worries.
I also had a very bad shopping habit. I had that mindset of, I've been working all week. I deserve a treat. I deserve something to show for all of this hard work I've done. And I just had no practice in saving, and had no example. I had no model for that. And money slipped through my fingers very quickly. So I had, both problems of the debt was just compounding in a bad direction, and I couldn't figure out how on earth I would ever pay for that. And I wasn't really doing any work to save and try to. So it's not in a great financial situation. And I had a lot of stuff. And I guess maybe 7 years ago, I picked up Marie Kondo, life-changing habit of, what is it, like life-changing, something about decluttering, tidying up, life-changing habit of tidying up, something like that.
Yeah.
That's her big famous book. But I read Marie Kondo's book, and the word decluttering entered my vocabulary for the very first time. And I've never decluttered a single item in my life. I was borderline hoarder. I collected every single little thing, every drawing I ever made, every book I ever read. I had all of the reasons and all of the excuses to hold on to everything. I was overly sentimental about everything. And I had a first marriage, and somewhere in there in the story that ended, and my previous love came back into my life. That is my now husband. And when he came in, he moved in with just a surfboard, 2 surfboards, maybe 3 t-shirts, 2 board shorts, and a pair of flip-flops and a guitar. I mean, he owned nothing. And he was so happy with that. He just re-entered my life after a nomadic chapter of just traveling around the world, surfing and hitchhiking and backpacking around the world. And he'd become very detached from things and was the complete opposite of me in that regard. And he financially had at least figured out the part where he would come back to the States and save up $10,000 at a job, and then he would leave and go back on a traveling adventure for a while until he ran out of money. And then he'd come back and save up 10 grand and do it again, kind of rinse and repeat for 5 years. But he wasn't building any wealth, but he was at least able to save for the things that he really valued. And so he had a leg up on me on that. And the one investment he did make was to purchase a home in Alabama, where we were from originally. And whenever he left on these adventures, he ended up renting it out to a friend. And eventually this turned into a long-term rental, and he decided not to live in the house anymore. So he kind of accidentally stumbled into real estate, as like a young 20 something. And that was amazing. So once we got back together and we looked at our finances together, which was the first time I'd ever really done that, which is crazy. I'd never sat down and dug in to my finances or tried to make a plan at all. And he helped guide me through that. I had a couple of very elementary, looking back at it now, but they were, mind shattering at the moment. A couple of things that he said to me that really gave me a mindset shift. This does lead to minimalism, I promise. But I had gotten a big promotion and started a new job, and I was making more money than I'd ever made, really good money. And that first paycheck came in. My habit of wanting to show for that was going to kick in immediately. I was very excited about this paycheck. And he kind of physically took that from me and said, no, this is not your money, which you can imagine my reaction to that was like, excuse me, this is to my money. Give me that back, And he was like, no, this money belongs to, X student loan and Y car loan and Z bank and, all of the things that I had debt with. And he said, you borrowed this money from these people. They trusted you. You told them you would pay them back. And he kind of personified it for me. And he said, you owe them this money that you borrowed from them. And once you give them their money back, then all of this money will be yours. Every paycheck that comes in, that will be your money, and you can spend it how you like. But how dare you go buy new shoes when you promised these people you would pay them back? And just kind of switching that from these like just nameless bank names into as if you are borrowing from a friend, that really changed it for me. And I got really serious about wanting to pay my debt off.
Wow.
So yeah,
Mhm.
we came up with a plan, and which included getting rid of the car and all kinds of big shifts. And all of the money from that job went to my debt, and we lived off of just his income. And so there was no lifestyle inflation from this nice new job I'd gotten, and got completely out of debt actually relatively fast. I can't remember the exact time that it took, but I want to say it was something like 6 months. It was less than a year. Once I was just focused and
Yeah.
throwing every single cent at these things, and started with the highest interest first and worked my way through it, because the higher interest was bearing me faster than the lower interest ones. Yeah, so we did that, and then after that we switched to his mortgage, to the house that he was renting out, and paid that off completely, and we got completely out of debt. And that happened right about the time we'd moved to St. Augustine. And I'd quit my job and gone freelance, which, funnily enough, I was now freelancing for the company doing the exact same job that I had been doing, but I just freed myself up from being in a cubicle, and now was able to go wherever I wanted. He wanted to surf, and St. Augustine was gorgeous and full of arts and culture. So we landed here, and he broke his ankle in 3 spots the week that we moved, and could not go into work in St. Augustine where he'd just gotten a job. And now we were just relying on my brand new, not even a month in, brand new freelance job. And we were just barely coasting. I think like $200 in the green at the end of the month, kind of coasting. But we were in the green. We had no debts, and we wouldn't have been able to survive that medical emergency for the 3 months he needed to heal if we hadn't gotten completely out of debt. And so that was huge. And now we had that rental income was truly income. I mean, there was no other payments to make on it. So my income plus that rental, we were doing okay, and just slowly getting ahead, each month. And once he started working, now we had a legitimate paycheck to throw in as well. And it's amazing to me how fast things can compound when you're focused. Oh gosh, I'm getting way off track from your question. So I can pick up there later, but back to minimalism. um, I became a new mother, and I still had this bad shopping habit. So we were doing better, but I was a bored stay-at-home mom looking for happiness in the wrong places, and shopping gives you a dopamine, chemical cocktail boost in your brain. And I was so reliant on that feel good dopamine hit. And so we could have gotten out of this, even faster. But I was still putting a little bit of a drain. I was a hole in the bucket for our household, because I was still wanting to buy all the interior decorating. Target was just a bad place for me to walk into. I still wanted a new little sundress like every 3 weeks. And so, yeah, I still had that consumerist mindset. And we had a new baby, and new babies come with lots of things. I was very fortunate, that a lot of our things were gifted to us, but we had too much. A little tiny, and she started walking early, and as stuff just turns into a tornado every single day. It was just stuff everywhere, toys, clothes, it was unmanageable. And I had such an extreme amount of stuff. I decluttered a little bit after reading Marie Kondo's book right before we moved, and it was my first time ever throwing anything away. And then I moved here, and I still had too much stuff. Could not fit it into this little house. And so I was just very, very slowly working my way into minimalism. It was not an overnight thing. It was not a weekend project. It was not one big decluttering, purge, and then voila, I'm a minimalist. It was just painful for me to let things go for a while. And I had to dig deeper and deeper into the questions and values and all the subconscious things that were making me cling to stuff. And I eventually kind of reversed the the dopamine hit that you get from accumulation, and started feeling that same feel good hit when I released something. And it almost became addictive in reverse. It was just a weekend would go by and I would just haul out another big load of stuff to take to the local thrift shop here and feel amazing the same way I would as if I'd gone to the mall and came back with a bunch of shopping bags,
Whoa. That's interesting. That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting.
It really, a lot of it is, it's our human psychology and our chemistry.
Yeah.
And that really helps, reading a lot of books on minimalism and understanding that about yourself. That really helped me work through all that. So anyway, it was motherhood, to answer your question probably 20 minutes ago. It was motherhood that was the catalyst for me getting rid of most of our belongings and simplifying our household so that I could manage it, because I had no time to be the present mother that I wanted to be. I wanted to play with my child, but instead I was just bent over picking things up and washing dishes and folding laundry all day long, every single day. And you can never get completely rid of that. You have to live. But if you have 20 plates because you have 2 sets of dishes from your wedding, the dishes will fill up the sink in much faster than if you just have 1 plate per person in the household and you have to rinse it after you use it in order to get your next meal. And just things, things, capsule wardrobes, we don't have that many clothes per person. So you can't have a whole couch load full of stuff to fold and put away when you don't own a couch load full of clothes anymore,
So is that do you have 1 set of plates?
Yes.
1 plate each and like just a few outfits for each person?
I do. I have a cabinet where all of the other dishes have been stored. There's a paper sign literally taped in the cabinet hanging from a shelf in capital letters that says "Do not use!" ! And I had to do that to like retrain everyone. We don't use any of these dishes, but we do use this 1 cabinet that has 1 cup for everybody, 1 plate for everybody, 1 bowl for everyone. And then I have the other cabinet for the rare times that we have guests and their family coming over. And I do need to have 7 plates now instead of 2 or 4. And you could store those even further away. But for me, just having them all put away in a cabinet with a do not use sign on the side of it has helped us. And but that's not how I was raised. I was raised to have 1 cabinet for all of the cups, 1 cabinet for all of the bowls, and 1 cabinet for all of the plates. And so with it organized in that way, we would use all 35 cups that we owned before we ended up doing the dishes.
Easily. Yeah. I don't have to do dishes yet. There's still more.
Exactly. So, just things like that helped me so much. And I was able to be a more present and happy mother and get out of that kind of depressive, like, gosh, I had so much going for myself in my life. And now all I do is clean, There was kind of that kind of grumbly part of me and I didn't like it. So now, I do have to do some dishes and some laundry each day, some toy pickup each day, but it takes me so much less time. And that's what I became so fascinated with was, wow, I have all this newfound time. What am I going to do with that? And that was when I was able to be like, okay, I can get back to creating art. I can get back to playing my oboe and making music. I can write that book, publish and market that book because I now have this much time. And now I can take on managing and cleaning our rentals and save us a huge percentage, that you would normally give away to a property management company contribute financially in that way. And there were just so many things I could pack into that newfound time. And all I had to do was get rid of my stuff.
Cool. That's very inspiring. I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. I mean, I know it is. I mean, it's hard. I get overwhelmed at Christmas time. And not all it's within my control because family brings over presents and you don't want to say no and you don't want to be like, don't bring presents for my kids, but it's hard. It becomes another thing to manage and it can be a little stressful. And knowing that we only have so much space and some things are going to have to go. And but it's nice to teach the kids to let go of things. Our youngest, Ophelia, has gotten really good about, we'll go in her room and I'll say, what things can we give away to a friend or to somebody that needs it? And she'll help me pick out things, and she enjoys putting things in that bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old does too. I mean,
Yeah.
you start really early with that, and they understand it. And I take her with me when I drop off the things at the consignment shop, which if you're local, Betty Griffin is where I bring everything. And so she understands, I've explained it, that this is going to people, to little kid that really needs a toy. And she has that compassion in her, and she understands that even at age 4. So yeah, I can go in there with a bag or a box and say, what are you ready to give to a child who doesn't have any toys? What are you tired of? What are you not playing with? And so we're able to keep that culled down. And I keep everything in containers. There's like a container theory that kind of blew my mind, to understand that my house is a container, and that the closet is a container, the drawer is a container, and it can't overflow. If you can't close the lid on the box, then you have too much. You have to get something out of the box in order to completely seal that lid. And so to kind of apply that to each drawer and shelf and cabinet helped me a lot. And with children, I have boxes for every type of thing in there, and or not baskets. Mm-hmm. And if it's overflowing and can't be contained by the basket, then we have too many stuffed animals. We have too much dress up, we have too many dinosaurs.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, how many vacation rentals do you have? Or do you still have the long-term rental?
Yes, we still have. Yeah, we still have the long-term, and we just have 2 vacation rentals. And to me, what I think is so amazing about that is that's not very much. A lot of real estate investors I meet, especially around this area, they have, 13 doors, 25 doors, like 100 doors. And you rarely ever meet a real estate investor who has only one rental property. And you realize that once you have one rental property and you experience that passive income coming in, and you learn about leverage, and you learn it's just almost impossible to not scale up. And we could at this point very easily begin scaling up, but we're trying to hold ourselves to, this is enough. We're trying very hard to determine what is enough for us. And we're not trying to become millionaires or multimillionaires. We're not trying to become mega real estate investors. The goal is to be financially independent. The goal was to not have to clock in and report to a boss. And the ultimate goal is to go and live in Costa Rica and surf every day and garden. And we have like a very, very clear picture of what we want. We want to build our own little houses. We actually want to build little tree houses and cabinas and have a very Swiss Family Robinson kind of life. And we've painted a very clear picture, and we don't need that much money to fund that lifestyle. We've researched how much we need. We already have much more than what we need. So we know that we can fund that lifestyle and have a surplus that can either go back into the rentals and maintain them, and handle any emergencies, and also surplus that can go into stocks and index funds and continue to compound and fill up retirement accounts and such. And that's all I'm writing a book about this because I just want more people to know, like, it doesn't take that much. You don't need that much money to be content, especially once you've embraced minimalism or stoicism or essentialism, any of these kind of philosophies in your life where you've kind of broken away from that consumerist mindset. And if you don't have that urge to have to impress everyone around you and to fill your life up with things or shinier things, bigger things, newer things, if you can release that, and it takes some training to kind of opt out of the cultural norms and our programming, then you don't need very much. And so just a few rentals can fund a very content and comfortable life, we found.
That is awesome. That's awesome. How did you select the rentals you ended up having, or do you have like one on the beach and one downtown, or where are they
Yeah,
located?
we have one vacation rental on the beach. It's a condo, and one that's also on the island, but closer to downtown, walking distance to downtown and the lighthouse and the alligator farm and state park and all that. It's a really great location. Um, the our particular area, and if you don't mind me asking, is your podcast more local audience or is it a broad national
So this
audience?
is, yeah, it goes out to anybody, like anybody could find it that's in real estate. So it's potentially national, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I talk about St. Augustine and
Yeah.
yeah,
I just wanted to know it's like how detailed I should get or
yeah.
not. So the our particular area is divided up into several different sections regarding short-term rentals. So we have downtown St. Augustine has its own permitting, and then we have the beach, the St. Augustine Beach city limits has their own permitting, and then we have St. Johns County, which the beach and the downtown area is in, and then anything outside those lines is county, and they have no no permits or anything right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will change with time, but at the moment it's a free for all. And the beach area is obviously very hot, and it's pretty much year round tourism here. I mean, there's like 1 month where it gets slightly slower and the rates go slightly lower, but we've really found that we've had pretty much 100% occupancy year round here. It's just summer most of the year, and then our downtown is like one of the best places in the world according to National Geographic to come for Christmas lights. And so we have Christmas tourism as well, winter tourism. So it's been fantastic. And when you have a condo, they are considered condo tels, so more like a hotel, and they're outside of the normal permitting. So you're more free to do whatever you want. So if you have a little house in St. Augustine Beach, they only give 100 permits out. Those got snatched up the day they were released years ago. No one ever lets go of them. If they sell the house, the permit goes with the house. There's a waiting list 1,000,000 miles long for people that want to be able to vacation rental their homes, but it's very, very hard, if not impossible at this point to do, unless you have a condo to get you out of that kind of zoning. That might not be the right word, but anyway, so that's done really well. We found a condo that had a relatively low HOA and also looked fantastic and is maintained really well, because some of the ones that have low HOAs look a little shabby. But then a lot of the condo resorts around here are really astonishingly beautiful, but they come with massive HOAs too. So we found that perfect balance that we were looking for of, okay, this landscaping is really quite nice. Everything's clean, updated, painted, but still relatively low HOA. This allows us to cash flow pretty well, really well. And another thing, we got our condo 2 years ago and got a fantastic price. Right now, the national market and the local market is just wild. So it'd be harder to find something where the numbers make as much sense as they did for us 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Did you have to do a lot of fixing up? Was it a
A
fixer
little
upper?
bit. It no one had ever renovated it since 1983 or whenever the condo was built. I'm not kidding. Even the throw pillows on the couch looked like they had been there since 1983. Like it was so 1980s grandma. But really it's just so aesthetic. It wasn't, especially with a condo, there's not a lot of like, ripping out walls or anything like that. It's more just getting in there and painting. And we, painted the cabinets, took some cabinets down, to give it a little more breathing room, updated the furniture. And it was just such an aesthetic thing. I want to say we renovated it for just $5,000, which,
wow.
Yeah, we're very DIY. If you follow us on social media,
Yeah.
we DIY everything, and we're extremely frugal. We look for the best deal on anything we can. Very much Facebook marketplace experts and roadside treasure experts. And we really truly do have like a strategy. We know what neighborhoods have the best roadside treasures and what day they set their stuff out before trash day. And whenever we're renovating a place, we will wander those streets on a bicycle because you can see things a little better in a bike. Come back with an SUV if we need to.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And it's usually just a couple of coats of paint and something looks fantastic afterwards, But yeah, so didn't have to put much into it to turn it into a place that rents for a pretty top dollar on the beach. And another thing we did is we put a lot of money into it. We started paying that mortgage down pretty quickly. And we were, I want to say 17 grand away from completely paying it off when we started learning more about leverage and understanding how that works with real estate and why you want to do that, why it's almost foolish to pay things off and not tap into that leverage,
right.
And I would say Bigger Pockets podcast and Bigger Pockets website is a really good resource for understanding that. And they kind of push leveraging to an extreme, to a point that we feel uncomfortable. We are very much like kids we're millennials. We survived the 2008 housing crash and we witnessed all of that and struggled throughout those years. And so I know a lot of millennials want so badly to just own things outright because we're terrified that the banks will take our things. we saw what happened once before. So, we had to kind of work through that fear of it's okay, you don't have to pay it off. And we learned about recasting a mortgage. You probably know all about that, but that was an interesting thing to do. So we recast the mortgage, which basically means I know this is not like the most professional definition, but this is my very layman's terms way that I look at it, is when you're paying off a mortgage, you are each payment is like its own cast, its own little well or mold. I kind of think of like an ice cube tray, each little mold that you fill in with water. So each payment is filling up until you get to the end. And a percentage of each cast is, interest or going directly to the place. Sorry, my vocabulary is just escaping my brain right now.
Paying off maybe the PMI, maybe some of it's going to escrow, yes. the insurance.
Yeah. And so, but you have to fill up each well one by one. And so what we were doing by trying to pay off the thing is we were filling up each well one by one, and the bank makes less money off of you for that. But if you go to them and you say, I don't want to pay it off early, I'd like to recast the mortgage, they take all that money that you were just throwing into it and they average it out. So I kind of picture like an ice cube tray that you're filling in the water on the corner and you're letting it kind of just drizzle down each little, square, and it all averages out and each one is filled the same amount. So now every single payment has been filled the exact same amount. This dropped our mortgage payment from, I don't remember what it was before, $1,800, $2,000, whatever it was before, to $400 a month. Because we only owed 17 grand on it left. So So we've got the small HOA fee. We've got this very small mortgage. These things are covered in a single rental, usually one single booking. The place is booked 100% every single month. So it cash flows amazingly. So that was something we figured out right as the pandemic was beginning, and I'm glad we did. And then last fall, we purchased a little cottage and also did the most frugal DIY renovation, which was a little more intensive because it was an old 1940s, 1930s house. Is it 40s, 30s? I think it's 40s. Anyway, but yeah, so added a little more, but still, again, more aesthetic than anything else. We did build like an island, and we built a screen porch, and we added a deck and a patio and things like that. But most of it was painting and redoing furniture to make it look adorable, and filling it up with amenities and everything. But it's doing even better. I mean, it rents for a lot more because it's a house and it's got a fenced in backyard. We added the privacy fence too. So dog friendly, kid friendly places like that, it's more competitive. There's not as many dog friendly places. So that one is top dollar, and it also stays 100% booked, and it brings in even more than the condo. And it's just been an amazing thing. Like it's very hard to resist the temptation to get more.
How how much time do you spend each week managing and cleaning? How much of your time does it take up?
Let's see. Most in our market, most people only come for about 3 to 4 days. It's a tourist town, but most people can see what they want to see in about 3 to 4 days. And we've had a few monthly things, but not very much. And I guess it takes like a certain type of marketing to achieve that. But I will say, having like every 3 or 4 days turnover, we collect a lot in cleaning fees. And we do clean it ourselves. And I definitely should be paid for the amount of work it takes in between.
We had a vacation rental. We had somebody else clean it. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It's not
we will eventually this year probably turn it over to a cleaner because the amount of work is a lot. But on the other hand, I just peeped into Airbnb's platform, I want to say a month ago, and saw that I'd already collected 10 grand in cleaning fees alone for this year, which we're not even halfway through the year. And that's just Airbnb. That's not counting VRBO platform.
Wow.
So yeah.
So you're making money as a house cleaner, but good money.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and I used to grumble about it more, but now that my husband has retired these past 2 months, and he's helped me with each cleaning, and we get it done so much faster. We really enjoy each other's company. We put on good music, or we put on a good podcast that we can nerd out to together, and we can knock it out. And it takes about 2 hours.
What do you do with the kids?
So we don't give them screen time for at our house for most of the day, most of the week, until we get to the rentals, and then they're like, oh my gosh, screen time. And smart. So they'll either zombie out, and that's usually for the condo because there's not really anywhere they can go there. There's just a little balcony, so the screen time works fantastic there. And at the cottage, since there's that great backyard, we have a little pool. It's kind of like a dog pool, I think, to like clean dogs. So it folds up really well. You don't have to inflate it or anything. It just like pops open. And there's a little well. So we're not using city water. We just fill it up with well water really quickly, and a sprinkler. And we bring their swimsuits. Aww. They are entertained for 2 hours in that backyard, just playing with sticks and stones and water and mud. And so I also keep a toy box there as well, which counts as amenities for our guests that are usually families with little kids. And it's stuff that I decluttered from their room that I was so sick of picking up all the time at our house. But they were also just really good toys, and the kids still loved them. So I found this awesome balance of, I don't have to clean these toys up at our own house anymore, but they're extra special and easier since it's a manageable amount, just one little box, over at the cottage. And so they're entertained seeing their old toys again. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been a whole week since I've had this toy, and it counts as an amenity. So that's
very clever. Wow. you list that in the listing for the rental?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah. I've got children's books. I found that both of our places are, I market to families, and that's been very good. I keep the pack and play, a little high chair, booster seat. Let's see, strollers, jogging strollers, puddle jumpers, infant floaties. The books, little stools so that they can step up at the sink and wash their own hands, or step up to get on the potty. The little potty seats that you just set on top of a toilet seat, and it makes it smaller for them. These are all things that we wish people did when we travel, because we do, pre-pandemic travel a lot. And, I have to hold my kids over the sink to wash their hands and stuff.
Right.
So we're hosting just the same way, from our experience of traveling. And these are the things that we wish people had.
Wow,
So.
I love that. You're so, I think the way that you live is very intelligent. It seems like, honestly, I read your article on Medium about, it was called How I Dropped My Family's Cell Phone Bill to $36.
Oh, I
And
forgot I posted that.
it sounded like so much work. I was like, this is amazing, but sounds like so much work.
Really?
You're like, every time I see the mailbox, I toggle my cell phone usage to, I guess, data only or some other setting.
Data off. I just turn the cellular
Off.
data off if I leave
And
the house.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's so, but all the stuff you're saying, I'm like, this is so amazing, but it just seems like it takes planning and consciousness and intentionality.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
I will say
you do all that.
I couldn't have done these things because it seems like, what's the word? Mental load. It seems like you have too much stuff for your mental load, but you have to keep in mind, I've gotten rid of all the old mental load things. Yeah. So because of minimalism, I got rid of all these other things. Now I have space in my time and in my mind. So I have been able to be intentional about other choices that also almost always make things more frugal. So I'll tell you, we live off $27,000 a year, which compared, and most of that goes to our rent. We rent a little place here on the beach, and it gives us the lifestyle we want. And we don't want to be rooted because we want to move to the tropics. And our landlord handles the lawn and anything that breaks. So it's been, for us, renting has been a good thing. And then just purchasing assets instead of liabilities. So anyway, it's just, we might seem extreme to some people. We make our own peanut butter, we make our own jelly, we make our own dishwashing liquid, our own detergent. We do these things like turning our cellular data off on our phone, and not just not streaming things. We download the music, we download the podcast or audiobooks before we get in a car. And it's just, and it's not taking a whole lot of thought, I feel like, especially once you've just gotten into a habit after a month or two. But all that I know sounds super hippy dippy, or it sounds like a lot of work, but the cost savings has been amazing. Yeah. We're able to align more with our values of striving to be zero waste. No one can really achieve zero waste, but we can be less wasteful for the planet. And we're very financially motivated. So I don't want to sound like I'm saying a lot of the things that make us more green are really just because we wanted to save more money. And so, yeah, we've just really cut down on these extraneous costs. We really looked at everything that we bought regularly at the grocery store and looked into the ingredients, got on YouTube, figured out how people made it. And we're like, oh gosh, well, that's super simple. That's 3 ingredients and will only cost us $1 instead of $12 every week, Yeah.
So, that's really, I love it. I think it's great.